Hi everyone and welcome back to the channel. This is your host Carmina, Vedic Astrologer and reader with the cards of truth. And today we have with us my colleague Fernando. And welcome Fernando.
Hi, Carmina. Thank you for inviting me, and hello to all your viewers.
Thank you for being on my channel. You also have an astrological channel. Of course, your full name is Fernando Castro Alvarez.
Yes.
I really like to say long Spanish names. Like really, they sound so noble. Like
Yeah. You know that there was a noble that was called Charles the First of Spain and Charles the Fifth
yes.
of Germany, who said like to speak to your horse you use German, for love you use French, and to speak to God you use Spanish. So yeah, there you go.
So I will
Yeah.
pray in Spanish from now on. Wonderful. Fernando actually has a channel in Spanish, and he invited me for 2 videos already, one on astrology and one on the cards of truth.
In Spanish.
In Spanish, because we
Because
both.
Carmina speaks Spanish, and she speaks it very well.
Thank you. And you speak English and Spanish. It's good to be like multilingual these days because you can reach out to more people. I actually wanted to ask you, because I know you are in Puerto Rico. I wanted to ask you, how is the Spanish audience? How is the Spanish public open to Vedic astrology or to astrology in general? What are their reactions? Because I know that in your videos you take it systematically. You show the information one by one, like the signs, what the modalities, and everything like that. Like, how are they receptive to this information?
Well, astrology has a long tradition in Latin America. It's not the same as in Anglo-Saxon countries like in the States or Britain. Uh, there are a lot of people who use astrology in Latin America. Also in Brazil. Brazil is a very big consumer of astrology
But do
in
they
Latin
use like
America.
ancient Mayan astrology?
Oh no, that's the thing. That there's a very crystal ball stereotype with astrology here is still, and people use astrology a lot. They use different types of astrology, mainly this new age modern astrology, not necessarily the traditional Western. There are also people who use Mayan astrology. There are also people who use Vedic astrology. There are also people who use even Chinese astrology. But there's a lot going on. I mean, the main problem with the astrological community in Spanish-speaking countries is that it's not united. And it's not because they're fighting a lot. It's because it is very divided per se. There are a lot of people who have astrological channels in Spanish. But they're all over the place. They're not systematic. What I'm trying to do is that I'm trying to create a systematic channel where people can go and reference Vedic astrology in Spanish with high quality videos, and people can learn in a free way. And I'm doing it slowly. It's a lot of material to cover, and I'm doing something that has already been done in English, but I'm doing it little by little in Spanish, and in the way we learn Vedic astrology, the way you and me do it, and also trying to bridge sidereal traditional Vedic astrology with new tropical Vedic astrology, and so on and so forth. But in Latin America, there's a lot of open-mindedness towards astrology. Of course, there's a little taboo sometimes because of the Catholic context, but there's also a lot of interest in magic, and also African traditions are very big in Latin America. If your viewers know a little bit about that, Ifa, which comes from Nigeria, Yoruba. There's also a little bit of or Palo Congo, which comes from Congo, and obviously there's also some traditions that span from like ancient Aztecs, which are called La Santa Muerte, which is basically the Holy Death. That you see these movies where they killed people in the pyramids. Well, that's kind of still alive in a way. But, that also has another context. But in in Latin America, there's a pretty big open mind towards Vedic astrology, and there are very good astrologers here, and that's something I've been trying to do with my channel, to bring in old astrologers who have studied a lot, who know a lot, and who have a lot of knowledge, because sometimes people don't realize there's a lot of things in India that have not been translated. There's a lot of things in India that have not come out. They haven't even translated into Hindi. And you see the Americans and the British astrologers that go to some places, but there are a lot of Latin American astrologers that go to other places, and they transmit another type of knowledge, another kind of knowledge from other places. And that's what I'm trying to do in my channel, also bring these people together and bridge them, so in the future there can be like some type of homogeneous, or some type of international Spanish-speaking community related to Vedic astrology.
Wonderful. And because, of course, I know you have a sun at Makaraka, you're so
Yeah.
planning the sun.
Your moon, right? Your moon.
No, I am Mercury.
Mercury. I'm sorry.
No, I have moon on the ascendant, so you're close.
Okay.
So yes, so you are like consistently, trying to build a community. I think that's wonderful, because like with these channels, they're not just a place for us to, inform and just, say who we are and to promote our services, because of course we also do that. We're astrologers, that's our profession, but it's also a place where people can, find out something new. You can bring like several, I mean, my favorite thing is to bring, from several types of astrology, and then you can integrate them into your practice if it resonates with you. So
no,
I think,
and the thing is, it's so big, like literally, like the cliche phrase, astrology is an ocean, and it literally is.
yes, it's really immense. Like I don't think we're in the age yet that we can fully grasp what it truly is, but we're getting there with doing our best. That's the most important thing, to do our best, and also to give the astrology, a reputation of something being more scientific and systematic, and not just I mean, I'm not saying that intuitive is bad, but it also has this scientific and systematic aspect, not just the intuitive.
The art and science, of course, of
Exactly.
Yotish.
Yes, the
And
art and science.
and let me tell you, like, and this is something that my teacher has spoken before to us. Like, we're living through an astrological renaissance right now, and
Yes.
the internet. And I've said this before, like, what the internet is doing for astrology is what sound did for film in many ways. It's just bringing together, like, now I can see how like the Indians are merging with the European types of astrology, and I believe it's a matter of time until there's like some type of global astrology where we can all relate to a traditional form of astrology that takes a little bit of everything. And we are living this right now, and it's I think it's just a matter of a few decades until everything comes together, and the West and the East stop fighting, and they just merge into one astrological tradition, a global astrological tradition, which is what I think it's happening little by little.
Mm-hmm. You really piqued my interest when you said, I bring people who go to India and find like new things. Can you give us some examples of, some of your guests who shared with you some insights that you didn't know before?
Of course. And by the way, let me tell you, where I come from, Puerto Rico has a tradition of very good astrologers. Like, for example, the number one, when you talk to a Spanish-speaking person who comes from any country in Latin America, not necessarily Spain, but in Latin America, when you talk astrology, the first name that comes up is an astrologer called Walter Mercado, which is Puerto Rican.
Wow.
There have been a lot of people who come from here who have been very good astrologers. One of them is one astrologer I've been going to. I live in an island, so everybody knows everyone. So I've been going to his seminaries, and I've known him for like 7 years now, but he studied with a guy who studied with Alan Leo, for example. And he went, his name is Jose Garcia. I have 2 interviews in Spanish in my channel, and he's been practicing astrology for 40 years here in Puerto Rico, and he's very
Mm-hmm.
well known in other Latin American countries. And for example, he studied in Kerala, where some right now there's some storms there and some floodings, which have been very bad for India. But he's spoken to me about the tradition, because there's a debate that goes on in India. Uh, we from the West, we think that India is a very homogeneous country,
Yes,
and
but
that's not necessarily true at all.
no, there's
And
always South Indian, North Indian.
oh yeah, and when you see the history, it's just amazing. I mean,
Yeah,
it's a
because
lot of it's a lot of languages, a lot of
yeah,
cultures, and that also extrapolates to Yotish traditions. And there's been a lot of uh, debate among Indians that, is there a Yotish parampara? Is there a genuine Yotish tradition? Some people might say no, like probably K.N. Rao would say, or he might say there's a little bits and pieces. Other people might say that there is a Yotish
mhm,
tradition, like probably people from the Sanjay Ras school. But, I interviewed him, and he's a well of knowledge, and he went there. He's also studied Buddhist astrology. He's also studied a lot of other things. I mean, Rosicrucianism, Tai
yeah.
Chi, Chinese arts, even martial arts. I mean,
You
and
must
little
have
by little.
some
I'm
active
sorry.
Sagittarius there.
Oh, probably no, and he has a Sun Saturn conjunction in Libra, so he's able to like bring everything together. But I'm trying to get all the old guys here, like already some English channels have done with English speaking astrologers,
Hmm.
and bring that knowledge, conserve it, and transmit it to future generations. Because in a way, you and me and other people our age are like that chain that will connect the boomers to the next generation, which would be Generation C. Because you and me were like borderline millennials, more or less.
Yes.
Yeah, seniors they call them. But oh yes, and little by little, I'm also bringing people our age from our generation, and to exchange ideas, to erase taboos, uh, and ultimately to bridge everything together. Because I mean, in astrology, I believe that we need to find common ground more than fight over little tiny differences about
Yes.
technique,
Yeah.
about
And also, it's individual, like taste, and if some things work for someone because they also use a lot of intuition, so that's why maybe some things work and you can't explain them scientifically. Like
definitely.
with the cards.
Oh no, the cards, and I mean, you can read an omen from the clouds. I mean, you can read an
Exactly.
omen. Here, in my country, there's a tradition of reading the future from coffee.
Yes,
I mean,
me too. We have it
yeah,
in the coffee.
yeah.
You turn the
Uh,
coffee around, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, probably that comes from the Arab world. I don't know
Yes,
where it comes from, but
probably.
I mean, it's all over the place. I mean, if you have the intuition, you can do it. And more than intuition, I think it's the intent that
Yes,
if you have the pure intent of like
helping.
genuine intent of wanting to help another person, or wanting to open that person to another level of knowledge and wisdom. I mean, you can do whatever you want. I mean, there's also a tradition here that's also very that I learned is also present in India, but this comes from Africa. The idea of reading what shells, tiny shells,
Yes,
and you can
yes,
read the future
yes.
through that. I mean, you can read the. I mean, we're so porous. I mean, the world is filled with magic and
Exactly.
miracles, and today in our modern world, we have forgotten to put it nicely about this, but it's everywhere. I mean, and how we affect another one with just a word,
Or with
a
our aura.
gesture. Of course, and it's very magical, and it's just that you just gotta open yourself, study, and put yourself to work. I mean, and you can learn anything if you want.
We mentioned the cards of truth, and I know you've been studying the cards. Like, how's that study going?
Very well, actually. I always have. Where is it? Is it? Where are my cards? They're over there. But I always have them in my pocket. And let me tell you, like, I'm not doing spreads. I'm just doing
Yeah.
one card, and I see like it's amazing. And the beauty of it is that if you have a solid astrological introduction or a solid astrological study already, the
Yes.
cards, you're gonna pick them up like this.
Yeah.
And I don't do spreads still. I just do one card and I roll with it. And I mean, just with the basic interpretations of each number. And for me, I used to read tarot,
Yeah.
and I'm never going back to tarot. I think
Yes.
I have tarot. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I have
Yeah.
tarot and I use it from time to time. But I mean, cards of truth is so much simple.
Yes,
And
simple and very effective, like concrete.
yes, yes. And the way Ernst explains it, I mean, it's just the analogies of the seeds and the fruits and the trees and the ground, and it's
Indeed,
so
yes, yes.
simple and it resonates with you. And the cards, you know, the difference between the cards and astrology, and I've always said this, even before I started with the cards of truth, when I did tarot, like in astrology, you can control what's going on. You can control what you can say. You can choose to say something. You can choose to omit something. But with the cards, it's like whoosh,
Yes,
it's just
there.
there, and you gotta go what the cards tell you. And
Exactly. It's
the
more
astrology,
genuine in a way.
yeah. And you know, astrology is a map, and you
Yeah.
can see what's going on. But the cards are photos, and you just there's a photo, and a photograph has 1,000 words. And um, you know, if you want to be more stream of consciousness, if you just want to roll with it and just feel the magic and feel that energy, just go for the cards. If you want to be more intellectual, more masculine maybe
Mm.
about it, just go for astrology. And in a way, you see how both sides of the brain, both female and male energy, work in terms of giving readings and forecasts.
Yes, it's wonderful, like you said, if you mix the knowledge that you have from astrology with the cards. Because, for instance, today I was doing like a health reading, and the card I got was a reverse six of diamonds because I do reverse fifth cards. And that makes me think, okay, six is like Venus. Venus is like digestive system, and diamond is like, you know, the minerals, some constitutive elements. So I think like the person has a lack of some mineral that doesn't help them, they can digest well, you know, that
Or
it,
or maybe something in the reproductive organs, or something, maybe some, I don't know, it's backwards.
yes, yes, yeah, it's reverse, so it's like something is not working. Yeah, I know why you're saying reproductive organs, because yes, Venus.
Yeah, or since, but it's, if it's the little victory
Mhm.
reverse, it should be maybe something's something she thinks or he thinks that's gonna be good. It's probably not good. It's gonna
Yes.
be bad, but not that big of a deal. Or yeah, in
Mhm.
terms of health, yeah.
Exactly, like something that they expect it to work, or and it's not really going to work, or like some expense. There are so many ways you can interpret these things, but if you know like a lot of information, the first thing that pops into your head, that's the right one.
Oh yes, definitely. And when I do readings, I'm doing cards too. Like for example, you know, when I do readings, I do an introduction, which is very, you know,
Yes.
I have the script already for the introduction, unless it's someone I know. But
Mhm.
now I place the birth card, and I also use the 7 year periods or
Yes.
the year periods in relation to the dashas,
Mhm.
and that's amazing. I mean, and
Yes.
and 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 you can do just a reading with cards, of course, as we've heard before other people say, but you can integrate it in such a great way. And you know, I combine that with the titis and the karanas, and the basic placement of the chart. And you know, that's the basic introduction you give to clients once they start.
Mhm.
And I mean, the cards have been a great tool. And you know, astrology is basically, you have a toolkit in a belt, and you have a tool for this, a tool for that, and you combine them, and you can do a lot of things. And the cards have been a great. And I recommend everyone who hasn't have the chance to study them, that you should. I eventually, in the future, I'm gonna make videos on it in Spanish.
Mhm.
uh, but you know, little by little, I'm following like an
A
itinerary
program.
of videos, because I'm doing everything, Karina. I'm doing like, I'm building a pyramid little by little. But it's gonna take time. But there's a lot of resources, and you're one of them in the internet. And I mean, people should, if they're interested in cards, you should go there because it's so easy, man. It's so easy.
Yes, it's easier than astrology for sure.
Oh, and let me tell you something. Something I struggle with tarot cards were the night cards.
Mm-hmm.
I always struggle with the night cards. The night.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
they are. Oh, what are they? Are they? No, they're
yeah,
just
yeah,
like.
yeah. And it's and then you eliminate them, and
Yes,
everything
it's
just makes
like
so much more sense for me.
exactly.
Like court cards have always been difficult for me to
Mhm.
interpret. And once you remove the night card, I mean, it's much more easier in my opinion, right? I
Yes,
mean,
and logical. Like there you have the jack. Like
yeah, 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 yeah.
it's true. Okay, so another question for you. What do you think is like the biggest challenge for you, like as a Vedic astrologer in Puerto Rico on YouTube?
Well, in YouTube, first of all, is the rhythm. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, if you want to be a successful YouTuber in astrology, you have to upload videos constantly. I mean, and the more you upload, the better.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that well, the thing is that if you're gonna upload material in English, well, the thing is that there's gonna be a lot of competition. But if you find a way to upload things that haven't been done, well, that's the great way to do it. And to find your niche, your group, and do it constantly. I mean, and creativity is boundless, and you can find anything. Uh, but I think, I before I did astrology, I was involved in arts. I had a band. I did some sketches.
Mm-hmm.
I was an actor, and I'm still in a way, but I'm retired. But
But I
I
saw
only
you
I
in some video. You were like an extra in some video or
Oh,
something.
yes, 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 yes. I still do that. Yes, I do that. They have to pay me a lot, but I do that still. Yeah, and many people know me more because of my band I had before
Mm-hmm.
than what I do now,
Yes.
per
So
se.
how do you
I mean,
reconcile that? I mean, how did you make the switch?
oh, everything started with my Jupiter Mahadasha. Like, for
Oh.
example, when Jupiter Mahadasha started, uh, I was gonna do my I was directed towards graduate studies, and I was gonna do my doctorates, and I want to be a professor, and I want to be a professor, and suddenly Jupiter Mahadasha started, and I just changed the way I was, and the occult came into my life in a way that I mean, my ascendant lord is conjunct my eighth lord in the
Mm-hmm.
third, and I
Mm-hmm.
have Parivartana 1 and 3, and and I have a lot of things in the 12th in Scorpio. And the thing is that I changed the way I was, and I started a band talking about esoteric stuff, talking about conspiracies, and then I did some
It helpful.
sketches. Yes, and that's how I met an astrologer, and he made my chart in 2011,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, come on, I don't because when you are not part of the astrological community, what you know about astrology is just sun sign and the
Exactly.
massification of
Mhm.
astrology during the 20th century, which has done more damage than good, in my opinion.
Yes.
Yeah, because people just think about
Diluted it.
people just think about their sun sign, and there's so much more. I mean,
Yes.
I wish it were the ascendant instead of the sun,
Exactly. Well, the
but
sun is also self-factor, so in a way, yes. But ascendant is the path, so.
I think it has to do with Christianity and the way astrology was rediscovered. I mean, reinterpreted and rediscovered during the 19th century. I mean, it was the middle during Rome.
Mhm.
Astrology was strong, and then with the decline of Rome, it came the decline of astrology in the West, not
Mhm.
necessarily in Arab countries. But when it started coming up little by little, there was a little upheaval in the 17th century with astrology, but then it came back, and then it came with force during the 19th century. And the way they had to interpret, the theosophist and the psychological schools, how they had to take that astrological thing
And
and channel it, because before, during the Christian heyday, astronomy and astrology, people who wanted to practice astrology had to conceal it under a Christian ethos, and that's more or less what happened during the 19th century, but obviously with less force. And I think the significations of the sun, since it's the spirit, our essence, and so on and so forth, like they try to resemble that and associate that with theosophical teachings, psychology, and that was at the same time like mass propaganda was starting up, mass media, and the way you associate that with, you know, control of the masses and consumerism and so on and so forth. And, you know, I wish it were the ascendant, but the thing is that coming back, I met an astrologer. He did a chart, and everything came through like a year and a half afterwards. And I started little by little, you know, reading books. I mean, there's something here genuine, and you know, started doing readings, you know, very informally, simple stuff, you know, where's the ascendant lord. And in 2014, I decided to do it, you know, let's do it professionally. Let's study hard, and I'm here now. And, you know, I consider myself a novice astrologer, you know, and the beauty of it is that you never, ever stop learning.
Exactly.
I mean,
never.
You never stop learning. You never stop. I mean, there's so much to do. There's so much to do in the field. And in terms of what you asked me for, what's my biggest hurdle in Vedic astrology? I think, you know, there's a big taboo and big misconception of astrology for the public, and the way, you know, astrology as a practice and astrology as a symbol, as people see it, and astrology as a business are three very different things.
Yes.
You know, the practice and study.
Parenthesis, just I wanted to tell you something because it happened today. Like somebody messaged me like, "Oh, are you an astrologer?" I think Vedic Astrologer tagged me in a post, and I got
yes.
And he's like, "Are you an astrologer?" And I'm like, "Yes." He's like, "I'm also a Vedic astrologer in India." And I said, "Good for you." And then he said, would you read my chart? And I said, okay, I don't have time to do free readings right now. I used to do free readings, but at the moment I can't. And he's like, oh, I can't believe it. You people are turning astrology into a profession. I do readings for free. And I'm like, well, in this day and age, like you have to, you know, if it's a profession, if you're going to dedicate 100% of your time to it, you have to make a living, unless your parents are very rich or something.
Yeah. And for me, that's the dream, to live from astrology, however you can do it. I mean, even, and it doesn't mean you have to be rich. It just means you have to have money to pay your rent and pay your expenses, and that's it.
But he was going further, was like, it's a sin, and my integrity does not allow me to charge money for astrology. And like,
good luck and God bless. I mean, what can you say about that? I mean, like I was telling you, I mean, the study and practice of astrology is for me the most beautiful thing. It's like, is as if we were like monks or Brahmins in a church or in an ashram, just studying and studying and studying. And for me, that's the beauty of it. Now, the thing, no, go ahead.
No, I said, yes, it indeed, but nowadays nobody's donating to us. So.
No patrons, exactly. And you can't go to an ashram or a church because, and that's something a lot of people do. That's a mistake a lot of people do. The idea that I'm going to an ashram to experience a spiritual life. I'm going to a church. No, man, it's not like that anymore. You're going to go there and probably it's going to be really a difficult experience, to put it nicely. You know what I mean? But I wish I could study all day. But you know, I have responsibilities. I guess that's the same thing with you. And that's one thing. And the business wise, because I remember once we talked in an interview we did, astrology is more like Jupiter Ketu, but if you really want to do it like a business, you got to have Mercury there. You got to merchandise, you got to do publicity, you got to sell yourself in any way you can, and there are a lot of astrologers who do that, and God bless if they're doing what they're doing to have the money they have, and that's a very important part, and those are very two different things. You know, that's like your avatar and who you are really. And for me, like the biggest hurdle is getting people to really know astrology, to I don't want to say destroy, but to let's put it nicely, to change this modern perception of sun sign astrology, of charlatans, of people who
Yeah,
just lie,
exactly.
and because for me, astrology is a gateway to a much larger world, especially Vedic thought. I mean, for me, one of the biggest problems with our society, modern society, our context where we come from, be it Europe or Puerto Rico or any Western country, is the lack of a spiritual basis, what we've lost, because human beings are spiritual beings having a concrete experience. And through modernity, we have lost that in many ways and substituted with the economy, with usury, with money. And those things are not necessarily what we need to be complete human beings. And for me, astrology is that gateway that can help modern man, modern woman to not only reinterpret the spiritual, but to come into contact with a larger world that can make them more healthy, more stable, more balanced, and at the end, better human beings. And for me, that's the beauty of astrology, because it helps you. It helps you understand you. And for me, like, the most beautiful thing when you do readings is not only do forecasts. That's just secondary.
Yeah.
It's letting the person know, like, you're doing counseling, you're doing
Yeah.
psychology, you're helping that person come into peace, to come
Yeah,
to
exactly.
terms with who they are. I mean, they've been living in that body for, I don't know, 24, 25 years, and here comes a complete stranger and tells them, well, you're this way because of this and that, and this is gonna, and that balance, that sattvic essence of just being, and just being in the moment, and being is perfect, because in the end, and this is the dilemma with modernity, being is far superior to becoming, right?
Yeah.
And just being, and realizing we're here, and we got to do things, and we got to work, and don't worry about other people, just do what you got to do, and be happy with what you have, and accept what's going on, and just move on and do what you got to do. That for me is very important, and astrology for me is a perfect tool to do that.
Yes, and it's wonderful because like these people are, if they were like really happy, they wouldn't poke us with questions like that.
Oh, yes,
You
and
know?
I don't want to sound sexist, but sometimes for women is much worse, astrologers, and I've been bothered with that. And what you do, I mean, I'm not very, hostile about it. I
Yeah.
just, sometimes Indians would or people, just normal people would
Yes.
write to you about, can I have a free reading, this and that. And I always try to find an exchange. Like,
Yes.
I had a guy who wrote to me, and I said, well, I want to know about the culture, about where you live, and tell me how's the perception of Westerners, and what's
Yes.
the difference
I
between
don't
your
like to
city and other
become
cities.
like a
And
vending machine. And for me as a woman, it's also important, like the feeling. If I don't feel the intention is genuine, like you wanna test me or something, well, you can pay to test me.
Oh, and when they test you, I mean, I just, I'm not, I try not to fight over astrology.
Yes.
That's something I decided a while ago. And if they want to test you, well, test me. And if I fail, I fail. I don't care. And the idea is to have an exchange. I mean, I've learned a lot of things about modern culture in India through these exchanges. Like, people want to read a chart, I just put their I don't go into that so deeply. I just put, and sometimes these people just want to be secure about things they're
Yeah.
doing, because in the end, astrology addiction is a very real thing going on, guys. Let's be honest, that's something we could do a video someday. I
Yes.
mean, I try to, if people contact me a lot, I try to just stay away from them, because it's
Yes.
not good. Like,
Yes.
they
If they
contact
go
you.
to 10 astrologers and they want 10 opinions, it's like really like just, you know.
Definitely. And if they want it for free, it's even worse. You know what I mean? But the thing is that astrology addiction is I call it spiritual consumerism. And
Yes,
and
it's like any form, like addiction can come in many shapes. If you're an addictive personality, you can.
And not only that, like I'm doing Yotish today, I'm doing yoga tomorrow, I'm doing Native American mysticism the next. I mean, it's
Yes, I mean,
always
if the person
this.
integrates it like holistically, it's fine, but it's like just, just to like a fashion.
Oh, and I believe it's more or less the same phenomenon that goes on with people who go to church a lot, and in personal life they're really nasty, and
It's
it's more or
possible.
less that thing going on, and
Yeah,
you
you
know,
can
people have.
tell, like, I can tell, like, by the first introduction, like the first words, I can really tell, like, what the person is gonna ask, and it's like,
And in the end, it's like people are looking for things outside when they got to look inside.
yes,
And that's
exactly. And they
and
project a lot when they don't like something and they're very passionate about it. It's like that part of themselves that they don't like. So,
and you know, to each his own, and everybody's in their own journey. But I mean, there's always a way to deal with these people. I mean,
yes.
you can look for, and there's always an exchange. I mean, you got to have, well, the Mercury going on about, you know, being rajasic, being, you know, business about it.
Mm-hmm.
And but for me, what, going back to the question, for not to divert what I
Digress.
was saying, is you know, the taboo about
Mhm.
astrology.
Yes.
It's that's something that's a hurdle. And you know, I think little by little the internet is doing that. I mean, we're changing the way astrology is seen, and I believe it's a matter of time until like the younger people discover astrology, discover even Ayurveda or Vastu or whatever other arts that connect them to something that is more feeling, you know, that fills them up more than just, you know, buying stuff or just working or getting money or, you know, material stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I understand exactly what you're saying. Yes, but like we're living in the world, we also need to cover our arta, our material needs. So I don't feel any remorse or guilt in charging. It's a service. The doctor charges you, everyone. It's the way of the world. We offer a lot of free information as well on our channel. So I think we do our part.
And let me tell you about it. And I've seen this before. When people say they don't want to charge, they are either very, 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 very spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
But they're, if they were so spiritual, they wouldn't be saying that.
Yes.
Or they have an idea of like being very spiritual, or like you said, they're rich, and that's something that's very common with the Marxist mentality. You know, people who are very, you know, socialist, or very people who want to do things for free, or people who just want to help the poor and so on and so
Yes.
forth, generally have very privileged upbringings,
Yes.
and they haven't experienced the necessity of working, the necessity of things, of the experience of lack, and they have a perception of material life that is very different from other people.
Idealistic.
Oh yes, definitely, and that's very traditional in terms of sociological studies of the Marxist mentality. From like the majority of people who've been socialist warriors and all that, they come from very privileged families,
Yes,
and
because they
it,
have like a different view. They're like they look from up.
and they have some family traumas going on, and things that are unresolved, and you know, and we can go on, and I sometimes feel that is there too,
Hmm.
because we see a lot of astrologers out there, but we really don't know who they are. I mean, and we see a lot of people in professional fields, and we really don't know who they are. And for me, astrology is the key to know people, and that's the beauty of it too.
Yes, it's a wonderful tool.
Definitely.
Yes. Okay, so thank you, Fernando, for being here today. I'm gonna link your YouTube channel and your website.
Of course.
I encourage everyone to check out Fernando's channel, especially those of you who speak Spanish. And even if you don't speak Spanish, just to support the international community, you can, subscribe and, maybe share with your friends who are Spanish speaking. So that would be wonderful. So, Fernando, thank you for coming on the channel today. I really enjoy talking to you always. And I hope
Thank,
to see you again soon.
thank you, Carmina. I hope you can invite me again. And I had a great time. And I want to thank you for doing your videos, because you're doing also a great job uploading great material. And I hope we can repeat this once again.
Yes, maybe about the addiction and astrology.
Oh, definitely. We can do that. If we want, we can close it and we can do another one.
Okay. Okay. See, we are addicted to astrology. So.
Oh, yes, we are. We are. I admit that. Not to astrology readings, but yes to astrology. Yes.
Okay, so I'll talk to you guys soon. Check out the links in comments and give this video a thumbs up to help spread the message. Subscribe to me, to Fernando. See you guys soon. Bye.